Здравствуйте, товарищи, and welcome to another segment of Why You Should Play. And I know it's been a while since we've done one of these, but there hasn't been a game that's really inspired me to do one since the Banished saga. But today, we're going to be talking about a game called Banished. And if you're not familiar with the premise of this segment, basically what I do is I take 15 minutes to explain the game and then argue why you should play it. So it's not necessarily a review because I'm not attaching a numerical score to the end of that. It's more of an argument. It's more of a case that's being made. And I hope by the end of my 15 minutes, you'll say, you know what, this seems like a pretty cool game. I'm going to go check it out. And another thing is I also try and limit myself to indie games, you know, because these types of games have less of a marketing budget than bigger, larger publisher-backed studios that are able to literally throw money at their marketing developments to the point where sometimes they actually go bankrupt because they overspend on their marketing budgets. In any case, that's a topic for a later date. So, without further ado, I'm hitting the timer now, so we're on the clock. So, what not Banner Sega, for some reason I'm gonna continue to mix those two up. Banished is a city builder game. And it's not really like a city builder in the sense like SimCity or like Tropico or whatever. In fact, the game it reminds me the most of is Stronghold. Because Stronghold was that first game that I played where you kind of created these multi-level economies. Like you'd have the guy who makes the wheat, and he takes the wheat to the mill, and he makes flour, and then he takes it to the baker, and the baker makes bread, and you know, on and on and on with a bunch of different resources. And in a lot of ways, Banished reminds me of that, except it lacks the whole military aspects of Stronghold. So, in Stronghold, sort of what could kill you is if you basically got wiped out, you know, by an enemy force. You know, there are military elements that could come in and kill you. In Banished, what wipes you out is your own inability to play the game, basically. So, if you're crappy at designing a city, your people will starve, they will freeze, and everybody will die, and then you'll have to start again. So I kind of like that. It kind of brings that survival element that we see in a lot of games these days. You know, Don't Starve, DayZ, Rust, all these types of games that have this really kind of strong survival element. It kind of brings it to the city builder genre, which is pretty interesting. So let's kind of talk about the systems of the game. There are a couple different systems. The first main one is food. And food is, collected in a variety of different ways, and then stored in your storehouses, and then your citizens take them to their regular houses, and then put them in there, and you know they're able to eat over whatever period of time. So, one of the ways you get food is through farming. There's agricultural elements, which you can see here. These are some of my potato farms, and you see some guys out there just planting those potatoes. You got a peach orchard over here. And then besides the agricultural element, there's sort of a gathering element too. So over here, we have some dudes fishing, and then they bring the fish over to the storehouse. And over here, we've got two interesting food production buildings. We've got a hunter's cabin, which has people go out and they hunt for deer and whatever, and then they bring it back. And then we have a gatherer's cabin, and these are people that go into the forest, and you can see some of these like herbs here. Like, well, for some reason they're peaches right there, but you can see like the leafy herbs just kind of chilling out. And there's also some other ways you make food. There's some pasturage, but I haven't gotten to that point where I can build some pastures. And now those are the main ways you get food. And as I alluded to before, if you don't have enough food, your people die, your people starve, and then of course they die if they starve. So the next main system and the next main resource is called logs or wood. And wood is collected through harvesting trees. You can have people manually harvest trees. So I can have some people, let's say I want these trees to become logs. I've set those to be cut down by the next villager who has some free time. Or you have some foresters' lodges. And what they do is they cut down trees and then they replant them. So they kind of automatically manage the forest. However, I've noticed they're kind of inefficient. But because I always find myself seemingly running low on logs. But logs are used for a variety of purposes. One of the things they do is once you take these logs, put them back in your store pile, they're cut up by woodcutters who then take it back to the store pile with a new resource that's called firewood. And then your citizens collect the firewood and they put it in their house, and then they use that to warm themselves during the winter. And that's another thing that can wipe out your town, is if they're not able to keep themselves adequately warm during the winter months, then they die. They freeze to death. And that brings me to another system of Banished, which is a 4-season system. So the years go by and time morphs from spring to summer to autumn to winter. And right now I think we're probably either in early summer or late spring. But as you'll see sort of the world change as it morphs into a different season. And of course you can do different things at different seasons. So, you know, these guys spend the whole year planting their potatoes, and then in the harvest season of autumn, it's a dash to get them all collected and put them in the storehouse before winter comes and kills all the crops. And hopefully, you know, people don't die during that time period. As you can see, I'm running low on food. I'm actually really low on food. Fortunately, a lot of these people have plenty of reserves, but still, that's not good. In any case, let's talk about the last... Oh no, there's 2 other major resources. I'm going to say the last one, but I lied. There's 2 more. There's stone, which is used predominantly to build buildings. I haven't found much use of stone besides the building of buildings. And you can have a quarry, which I don't have, or you can have people manually cut down or chop up those stones and bring them back to the storage pile. And lastly, we have iron, and we can see some iron in the world over here. It looks more square than stone. I also have an iron mine in which people are, you know, mining iron, obviously. And so they take the iron and they put it into the storage pile, and then a blacksmith will take that iron and use it to make tools. And what tools do is allow your citizens to complete their tasks faster. So if they have all of my people have tools, but if they didn't have tools, they'd be doing the same things. They're still able to do everything they need to do, except they just do it at a slower pace. So you want to have those tools. And the blacksmith, he takes a log and a tool, and he forges that into whatever the people need. So besides those, I guess, basic core elements of Banished, there's a number of other things that kind of work together. Things I haven't built yet, like there's a tavern, there's a school. I haven't built these buildings yet. There's a trade system, and sometimes merchants come from other towns, come down the river, and then you can use that to trade, use those resources to trade with people. There's a hospital over here because they can get sick, and so on and so forth. But Banished is a game that moves through time, so you're essentially playing through time, and every time... you know, every season that goes, every winter that goes by, let's say, is another year. And your people age, and eventually they grow old and die. So let's look at a citizen. Excuse me, I had to take a quick second and sneeze. In any case, let's look at this guy. His name is Wellyson, and he is in crappy health, and he's having a good time, I guess. He's got 4.5 stars out of 5. He's a farmer. His clothing is decent. He's using his iron tools to do some work. We can click on Yasmin, who is apparently very unhappy because, well, my city's called Stalingrad, and I guess you don't have much fun in Stalingrad. In any case, you can kind of increase the happiness by building taverns and other types of things, or making sure they have a variety of different food. But here we can see her age, which is 13. And at 10, your children become old enough to work. So if we go and click on this house, we can see that there's a mom and a dad and a 7-year-old child. And one of the things that keeps Banished in balance is the fact that you can't overexpand. Because if you overexpand, you'll have too many mouths to feed and your people will die. Because children can't do shit. They're entirely useless. All that they do is they eat your food and they absorb your firewood and just sit around being a waste of space. So you have to make sure you don't overexpand your city, or suddenly you'll have all these useless children who are doing nothing except eating your food, and then all of a sudden everybody dies. And another interesting thing about the game is it makes pretty good use of space, and space is also definitely a constraint I found, because I've kind of wedged myself. I have a very small village here, and I've wedged myself in between two rivers. I can't really expand because there's mountains back here and mountains back here, and forests which I could destroy, but they're giving me resources in this forest over here. And that's one of the great things about Banished, is that it's easy to learn. It's not a complicated game, but it's incredibly difficult to master. And just when you think you've got sort of a handle on the way the game operates, all of a sudden, oh no, you realize that you're running low on food, like I am right now. Like I was in a really good status a couple years ago, 2-3 years ago. I had my storage barn was full of potatoes and every type of different food you can imagine. But now all of a sudden I'm worried that the harvest we yield this year might not be enough to feed everybody. Fortunately, they've got some, like I said, some backup food, so they're not going to starve yet, and hopefully can make it to autumn where we can get an adequate harvest this year. And you can never really sit pretty in this game. You can never really sit easy because you don't know what's going to happen next, and you don't know if you're expanding too fast or you're not expanding fast enough before it actually really kind of bites you in the ass, which I think is a very cool dynamic, because I guess the game kind of derives its difficulty from the systems itself. It doesn't derive it from a lot of external forces. If you die in this game, it's pretty much your fault. It's pretty much you planned a crappy city, you made the wrong move, and then everybody died, and that's on you. So all those little useless 10-year-old Timmies that die of starvation, you know what? That blood is on your hands. And another thing I like is that there's a lot to learn. Well, let me rephrase that. There's always something new to explore, and a new underlying facet of the game that you can dig into. And I just recently built this. It's just a tailor's hut, and what that does is it takes leather harvested from the deer over here, and let's see if there's some leather in the storehouse. Yep, there's some leather here. So the tailor is going to take that leather and turn it into hide clothing, and the hide clothing is going to help your citizens keep warm longer during the winter, so they can therefore complete more tasks. So you're never ever going to run out of little aspects to learn, I guess, within this game. So we're kind of running out of time, so let me sum up my conclusions and my thoughts this far on Banished. Basically, if you like city building games, you're going to like Banished. It's definitely a unique experience when it comes to the genre. And if you like that sort of survival aspect, it's also very, very compelling. A lot of people have called this like Skyrim, the village, the game, because you notice like it's a very medieval sort of look here, and kind of looks a little bit like Skyrim, I guess. But the whole premise of the game is that you start off with a small band of like 10 or 15 people, and you have to scratch out a living in this world. You start from virtually nothing, and you have to bring these people salvation, because I guess they've been banished from their other towns. And I think that's a really interesting way to look at the game. I think that's really compelling, to take these group of ragtag survivors and just try and build something that's just a little bit livable for them, just a little bit decent for them, because these bastards work hard. So to Catherine here, she is in really shitty health, but she's still working on the farm. You can't stop her, as if she stops, well, she won't be able to feed her kids, and then she dies, which is a sad scenario for her, I suppose. So, okay, I've got 1 minute left. At the end of the day, if you're looking for an interesting and engaging city builder that isn't difficult to get your head around, but it's going to spend a lot of time enticing you with its systems, then I think Banished is definitely something you should look into. So with our last minute, I'm going to speed things up here, and we can kind of go through the whole cycle of seasons, and you can kind of see what the world is going to go through. I'm still hoping my people don't die. We have some food there. You know, we might make it. We might make it to the end. But these food reserves are dwindling. It's because this guy has... Okay, yeah, some kids that are useful. I like that you can send your kids off, like, literally to the mines. You can send them to the mines when they're 10 years old. If it were up to me, I'd send them sooner. I'd say probably 4. You know, because till that time, they're just wasting, you know, everybody's food. Kids. So I think we're probably heading towards autumn right now. You can see how close these potatoes are to being ready to be harvested. So let's put some... Oh, there's my timer. Well, we'll go a little bit longer, just so we can get to the end here. So put one more farmer here, and there you see. Now comes the autumn part of the game, where you have to hope that your citizens can harvest enough food before winter comes. It's like a race against time to hope that they can get all the crops into the storehouse before winter comes in and kills them all. So yeah, you can see the leaves start to change color on all the foliage. And it looks like we're doing pretty decently. I think we're going to get a pretty good harvest this year. Although a lot of those potatoes have already been taken into my citizens' storehouses because they need that extra reserve food. But it looks like they're going to be able to get just about all the crops, which is great. That actually rarely happens. And here comes winter. And we lost a little bit, but not too much. So yeah, at the end we have not as much food reserves as I would like. And we gotta hope that this is gonna last us all the way until the next season, until the next autumn harvest. And if it doesn't, well, like I said, everybody dies. Or, although at some point, enough people will die, so you have some food, so it brings things into balance, I guess. So they have some food left over because there's not as many mouths to feed anymore. So with that, I'm gonna wrap this up. But before we go, I want to announce the winner of the last contest, which I'm terribly sorry for getting his game to him so late. But I sent him an email a couple days ago saying, hey, you know what? Sometimes just communist bureaucracy gets in the way and it's incredibly inefficient. But I want to read out the winner's email, and this comes from Kajartan Skarphinison. I'm probably sure I'm not even close to pronouncing that name correctly. It says, hello Spencer, my name is Kajartan. I'm just going to call him that. In other words, I am Icelandic, and I know a lot about northern mythology. I'm going to slow this down a little bit. And I have actually gone to many mythology classes. I've watched your first half an hour of this game, and actually parts of it speak in Icelandic. As you may know, Icelanders are the only people in the world that can read ancient, more than 1,000-year-old Nordic text, and the first people that came to Iceland actually believed in the Nordic gods. Iceland became Christian after a guy that believed in the Norse mythology called Hjóni in Icelandic fought against a Christian. In the end, Christianity won. All the statues of the old gods were thrown into a fall that is now called Godafoss, Old God Falls. This happened in 1000 AC. Of all the people entering this contest, I believe I will probably get the most out of this game because I will get all the references and dialogue in the game. A lot of places in this game actually sound like Icelandic words in mythological places. Skogur. Wow, I'm making these poor Icelandic people cry right now. sounds like the Icelandic word for forest, and since I know a lot about mythology, I will probably get all the names as well. I also really like strategy games. I've never played an FPS in my life, especially XCOM, which was also my game of 2012. So, all in all, this game seems like it was made for me. Additionally, since I am Icelandic, I end up paying slightly more on Steam than Americans, and possibly Canadians. So getting this game would be appreciated. I am also a socialist, and in your video, America's turning everything it fights against, which I don't even remember making, I'm sorry, was very inspiring. Iceland has also strong cultural ties with Canada. About 15% of Icelanders moved to Canada around the 1900s and 1920, when life sucked badly. A priest that came visiting said, "The only reason the Icelandic nation was alive was because we had so many babies." I'm also an atheist. I hope you remember to read Comrade Stalin's speeches. Sincerely, my Icelandic friend. And yeah, so I thought that there was no way I think anyone deserved the game Banner Saga more after that very thorough explanation. So I thought that was very good, very compelling, and obviously his case was the one that moved me the most to give him the game. So I would also like to give away a copy of this game, and the way you're going to do that is different from last time. Basically, just go to my Facebook page and type in the phrase "A famous dictator, all hail Stalinator," and everybody who does that will be entered in to win a copy of Banished, and then a winner will be chosen at random, and you will receive your game in a far shorter duration than it took last time. So with that, I hope you guys are interested in Banished, and I hope you might spend some time to check it out. And until next time, you guys take care.